Today I'm going to show you how I taught my child to go from simple phonemic awareness activities like this to reading CVC words like this. If you are looking to teach your child to read in fun, interactive, and playful ways, this video is for you, my friend. The first step that I took is to develop my child's love of reading. And I am not going to talk too much about this because I've done a couple videos on this in the past. But basically, if they're simply not interested, then they might not be ready yet. So really, when it comes to taking each step with your learner, you have to be very observant and decide if your child is interested. If you are meeting some resistance, maybe you need to take a step back, or you need to try a different activity or a different approach, or maybe take a break altogether. You can start developing this love for reading at the earliest age of, when they're an infant, basically creating these reading routines for them. So make sure you check out that video. So while developing my child's love for reading grew and grew, I started to notice that he seemed interested in learning more of the mechanics of reading. And that's when I introduced phonemic awareness. And remember, I've said in past videos, phonemic awareness is an auditory skill. It does not involve any letters. It just involves the sounds. I started isolating the beginning sound of his toys. So for example, I had this tortoise here, and we would just be playing, and I would just say, look, this is a tortoise, tortoise, and see if he would repeat that to me. And I would do it with all kinds of things, whether it be puzzles. I would take out this puzzle, for example. We'd be playing with it, and I would go, it's a motorcycle, motorcycle. As he became more familiar, I would have him try to identify the isolated sound. So for example, this is a ship. This is a helicopter. Which one says shh? It's the ship. Once he was comfortable isolating the beginning sound, then we would practice isolating all the sounds in 2 phoneme and 3 phoneme words.
B, E, B.
What sounds do you hear in the word sit? You can have your children tap out the sounds using their fingers. Or you can say the sound isolated and have them guess which word you're saying. What word is s-i? Then I started introducing phonics with him, where I started connecting those sounds to letters. And I used Jolly Phonics to help me out. When it came to choosing a certain type of curriculum, I really wanted something that was kinesthetic and musical, because my child loves singing and moving his body, and Jolly Phonics was perfect for it. And I honestly didn't even buy the curriculum. There's a ton of videos on YouTube that goes through all of the sounds. They take a letter, they teach that sound through motion and a song. Anytime we did a quick homeschooling session, we would watch the video, and we would watch it every time on a consistent basis so we could get comfortable with each sound. As I was showing videos of Jolly Phonics, each time we sat down, I introduced 1 letter sound, and we would do an activity with it. I chose to introduce letter sounds instead of letter names first, because it just felt so natural with the phonemic awareness component of isolating the beginning sounds in his toys, that it just made more sense to me to just focus on the letter sounds when it came to adding phonics in. I would work on a letter sound maybe 1 or 2 lessons, just depending on the feel of how my child took on that letter sound. When I introduce this to him, I don't focus on the letter name. I just tell him the letter sound. This is G. To practice it, I have these 3 pictures here into this empty tissue box. And he loves to guess what's in the box and pull it out. And so I'll pull it out.
and we stretch out the beginning sound. This is girl, g, g, girl. This says g, this says g, 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 g. Girl glue grapes, g, 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 g. And I have him with his finger trace the letter sound as he says the sound. So I say, this is g.
So basically by, 30 lessons time, we created all these different, little different art projects basically with all the letters. I'm planning to turn this into a book eventually when I have the time. But he was able to go through all the letter sounds and do fun and engaging activities, and he's been able to retain those. When it comes to the order that I chose to introduce the letter sounds, I started with letters that were most used in words. So the letters S-A-T-P-I-N, satpin. These set of letter sounds can make a ton of different words on its own. Once he was comfortable with those sounds, then I started getting into some blending activities. So when it comes to the blending activities, there's two parts to it. I do the phonemic awareness portion of it, then I move on to the phonics where I add the letters. So this is a blending activity that I have done with my 4-year-old, and these are sound boxes that you can actually download for free. I'll link it in the description below. I'm first going to start with 2 phoneme sounds. So I can use these little chips here. I think if my son wants to use these, I usually give him choices of what he wants to use, whether he wants to use something like the chips or some toys that he has. So let's pretend we're going to use these little dinosaurs, and I want him to tell me the phonemes, tell me the sounds in it. And he's learned the sound I and t. I might need to model it first. So for example, I'll say it, I, t, it. Comfortable with identifying each individual sound and blending it. Then I will move on to phonics, where I use letters. He can either pick out the sounds, or if he needs a little bit more support, I pick out the sounds for him and he has to just put it in the right box. So this was it. What says I? I, t, I, t. Then we put it together. It. And then once he was comfortable with 2 phoneme words, then we got into 3 phoneme words, CVC words, and that's when things get really exciting. So we can use this. It's again in the download. I'm going to change things up a bit, and I'm going to use this train here. This train activity was inspired from Julia at Home. I'll download her helpful YouTube channel down below. And basically it has 3 sections, so it acts as sound boxes, and I can choose chips like these, or chips or counters again, or I could even use different toys. So for example, I have these trains, and I'm going to have him try to park or move the train into the spot as he says each sound. So for example, let's say we're doing the word pan, pan, n. I might need to model it first and then have him try it on his own with a different word. If we're, for example, doing pan, I'll just put out the words here, or I'll put out the letters that he needs, and then he has to put it in the right spot. And he can even use his train to make it a little bit more fun. Pan. Let me just give you a quick recap of the steps that I talked about. So the first step is to get your child interested in reading. The second step is to build phonemic awareness, starting with the first isolated sound and then building it to 3 isolated sounds in a word. The next step would be introducing them to phonics, where they match that letter sound to the letter itself. Then once they get a set of sounds, introducing them to blending. And then blending with words with 2 phonemes and then 3 phonemes. And which is where he's currently at right now. And the next steps will be to build his fluency by teaching him how to blend in his head and say just the word out loud. And doing that with decodable and non-decodable sight words or heart words. Building those words into phrases and then building those phrases into sentences. So you could say that this is a part 1. This is getting your learner from essentially not reading at all to reading CVC words. Part 2 would be taking him from CVC words to sentences. If you're interested in an informative video on that, make sure you comment down below. Say, I want to see part 2. And I'd love to know which tip did you find most helpful. Comment down below. The next video is depending on where your child is at. I have a ton of videos through all the levels of teaching your child to read. If you're trying to get them interested in reading itself, make sure you check out this video. If you're looking for different phonemic awareness activities, check out this video. And if you're looking to get to work on letter sounds, this video is super helpful. So enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.